One of the most famous authors of the fantasy genre was a man named J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm sure that all of you have heard the books, and they made it into movies as well, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and he's written some other things, and one of his contemporaries was also C.S. Lewis. Now recently there had been a movie. I have not seen it myself, I've only read some of the reviews. But the movie was based, and it was kind of a biopic about J.R.R. Tolkien. And it explains what he did during the war, and it explains many things that he did. But one of the points, actually numerous points that they happened to leave out, was his profound faith. They completely omitted that from the movie. J.R.R. Tolkien was a very, very devout Christian, very devout Catholic. And because of him, actually C.S. Lewis, who they omitted as well, became a Christian who was a staunch atheist. It's this omission that Hollywood is often doing in many of the movies that they're releasing, and omitting Christ from the details. And it so happens that most of the time that and there's a saying, Satan is in the details. And it is Satan who goes into those details. Today, we read about the myrrh-bearing women, but I want to actually scale back a little bit and talk about Joseph of Arimathea. Joseph of Arimathea was a man who was a very devout Jew. And when he heard Christ's message, he changed. Something inside him changed. But one of the Gospels, not this particular Gospel today, but one of the Gospels actually says that because of fear of the Jews, he did not openly pronounce his faith about Jesus. What does that mean? And what does that mean to us today? Joseph of Arimathea obviously wasn't alone. Yeah, the disciples were courageous. They were going out and proclaiming, and it wasn't until after Jesus died and rose from the dead is when the disciples went and started to proclaim that the kingdom of heaven was at hand. John the Baptist started it, but Jesus wasn't even there. And the interesting thing about today's reading is it talks about these women who go, again, courageously going to the tomb to anoint Jesus. And lo and behold, they ask within themselves, who then is going to remove the stone for us? Because the soldiers that were there were instructed to not only put the stone there, but to seal it. So that way nobody would go, because the Sanhedrin was afraid that Jesus' followers were going to go in and steal his body to proclaim that he had risen from the dead. So these women were courageous. And then after Jesus had been crucified, Joseph of Arimathea actually courageously went before Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. So he began as somebody afraid of the Jews to step into the limelight to proclaim his faith for Jesus. And he took him down from the cross and he wrapped him up and he put him into the tomb. Joseph of Arimathea was a man of great courage, and so were those myrrh-bearing women. Now, when the stone was rolled away, we often ask for ourselves, as the women said, who's going to roll the stone away? Because there's actually, in essence, many times with all of us, two stones that are rolled away. The first is obviously the stone that is rolled away at the tomb. Jesus rose from the dead. Whether you believe in him or not, he rose from the dead. And the second stone that is rolled away is the one that is within us all. And most of us, a lot of times, and as I've said before, one of my spiritual fathers said, I had been a priest for nearly 40 years before I realized who Jesus Christ was in my life. It took 40 years of the priesthood for that stone to be rolled away from his heart. Who then can roll away the stone? The angel came down, but the angel did not come down and roll away the stone except by the command of Jesus Christ himself. He rose up from the grave and he took off all the garments, and the angel rolled away the stone. Who then can roll away the stone? Now, many of the people, as time goes on, the stone just stays. The rock remains. We know who Jesus is. We read about him. We see movies about him. We talk about him. But many times, many of us don't know who he is. Is he actually alive in our hearts? Or is he firmly planted behind the stone? Is he firmly planted behind the place that we want to keep away? Because a lot of times we're afraid to mention him in our workplace. We're afraid to mention him at the bus stop or at the store. We're just like Joseph of Arimathea, afraid. We believe in him. But for fear of society, we oftentimes bury that part of us because he will not be accepted. And remember what Jesus said. Remember, those who hate you hated me much longer before they hated you. He warned us. He told us that that was going to happen. But when the angel was there and those women went to the tomb, what did the angel say? Fear not. He is not here. He's actually out there, knocking on the stone of the heart. That part I added. He is knocking at the stone of the heart. And remember, all of those disciples, all of those people that followed him so closely, including those women, were asking, who's going to roll away the stone? And it wasn't until he appeared to them that it solidified in their mind. And they were like, whoa, what he said was the truth. He rose from the dead. He did it. He conquered death. And with that newfound knowledge, they were able to pull away that part that was hesitant. They were able to pull away that part that held them back. And they went out and boldly proclaimed that the kingdom of heaven was here. It was at hand. It was here. It is here. He's alive. And he wants to knock at the door and enter in. He's knocking. And that is the key to us. How many of us, all of us, are Joseph of Arimathea, but the old Joseph of Arimathea? My goal, and even I do it myself, but my goal is to become the new man who became Joseph of Arimathea. To have that courage. That no matter who or what is said, that I will proclaim the name of Jesus Christ boldly wherever I go. Remember Paul's words as he sat in prison. I am an ambassador in chains. I am an ambassador in chains that proclaims the name of Jesus Christ. Every letter that he wrote, he proclaimed the name of Jesus Christ from behind bars. Nothing can stop us. Nothing can divide us except that stone that's in front of our heart. How can we remove it? Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be open. Ask, and it will be given to you. If you want to know Jesus, all you have to do is seek him out. All you have to do is knock on the door. All you have to do is ask, and he will enter in. He's a gentleman. He doesn't do anything that he is not asked to do in our lives. Jesus Christ is a man that I struggle so hard to emulate. And every time I sin, I turn my back on it. Every time I sin, I happen to be spitting in Jesus' face. And that's why it's so hard that I try to keep that stone just pushed away and removed from my life, so that way I can glorify him with every breath that I take, every step that I take, every action that I take. And trust me when I tell you, I fail every single day. I make mistake after mistake after mistake. But the mercy of God is ever present. He is always there. He is always there, ready to receive us with arms open wide. Let us glorify him and remember that Christ is risen. Christ is risen from the grave. He has trampled down death, and by death he has destroyed everything that Satan has. And the only power that the enemy has is the power that we give him. Jesus Christ is with us today until eternity. And we just got to be strong for this short time that we live on this world. May the Lord glorify us in him, that he can strengthen us to endure the coming days. Look at the world around you, and only you can answer the fact whether or not the stone is still firmly placed in front of you. Let us glorify him and praise his name. Christ is risen.
Indeed he is risen.